From the 915 to H-Town, from the Panhandle Plains to the Valley, and everywhere in between, this is the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Join me, Hector Cano, as we cover the Texas high school club and college soccer landscape, along with an inside look at the college soccer recruiting scene. The 50/50 Podcast is a platform about the people and for the people who are dedicated to the beautiful game. Here we go. It's another edition of Inside Texas High School Soccer, Season 6, Episode 13. It is our Day 3 recap. I'm your host, Coach Hector Cano, along with my lovely sidekick, my Obi-Wan Kenobi, or the Obi-Wan Kenobi of Texas High School Soccer. Don't call him Mr. Vanna White. He is Mr. Papa Socceritis. Coach Rafa Casarena. Coach, how are you, buddy?
Pretty good. How are you? How was the trip to Georgetown?
It was good, man. It was good. It was busy. It was busy, but it was fun. It was good. Talked to a lot of great people, and saw a lot of great soccer. Saw a lot of interesting matches, and but it was good, man. It was really good. Excited to be back. Kind of a little bit of a downer, the fact that our season is officially in the books, but we're going to talk about that. We're going to look back on the last day of the season. But I talked to a lot of good people and watched a lot of good soccer. Ran into a little bit of weather, but that was kind of expected. But overall, good experience, good environment. Blessed to be there. Blessed to have the opportunity to cover the state championship. So not complaining one bit. How about you, man?
Pretty good. Just at the SAFC game, even though we ended up with a 0-0 tie. Just we're kind of worried about the weather holding up. Kind of did. Just some sprinkles here and there, but we'll see. But the big one's coming up Saturday. Go Copa Tejas at El Paso. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, a tie at home you can chalk that up to a loss, man. That's dropping points right there. But overall, all things good?
Yeah, pretty good. Just like I said, work stuff. Just trying to get things done. Trying to get people to answer their emails and just like I said, we're ready to recap Day 3. Some exciting things, some exciting games, and
yeah, man. Yeah.
And then looking forward to seeing what's next after this, as far as the off-season stuff.
Right, and we're going to get into all of that. Excited to cover. Again, obviously, we're going to look back at Day 3, our Day 3 recap. If you missed Episode 12, our Day 1 and Day 2 recap, go back on there, go on there, give it a listen. It was our what do we call it? Our After Dark edition.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm in the dungeon. I'm in the basement of a hotel, so I was talking like this and whispering like this because we're going live at like almost 1 a.m. in the morning. But it was great. It was fun. Go back in there. You want to catch our Day 1 and Day 2 recap where we discuss 4A and 5A D1 D2 finals. Today's going to be all about Day 3. It's going to be all about the 6As for the first half. We're going to talk about the 6As, and then we're also going to look back at we're going to give our final state MVPs their flowers. And then we're also going to look back at the regional breakdown as to who took home what hardware in terms of the regional breakdown, something that's always interesting to look at. And then we're also going to discuss our first time state champions, which continues to be a trend after 2 years. So it's pretty interesting stuff of note for sure. But before we dive into any of that, we want to go ahead and tell you about our proud partner. This episode is brought to you by our proud partner and title sponsor, Jeanette Spain at TexasVeteranRealtor.com, the go-to realtor for military and veteran families in Central Texas. With a cover and move I got your 6 approach, you focus on the move while she handles the contracts, deadlines, and all the details. If you want a realtor who works like you and fights for you, then you need to visit TexasVeteranRealtor.com for your free, no-pressure strategy session. I mean it when I say the attention to detail. That's what makes her so different. Being a military veteran, retired military veteran, that was part of her job, is the emphasis on attention to detail and focus. She's very detail oriented. She will not miss a beat. Does exceptional customer service. So you need to check out Jeanette Spain. Again, that's TexasVeteranRealtor.com. Jeanette Spain at TexasVeteranRealtor.com. All right, Rafa, my man, it is about that time. Before we dive in, any reattacks, any final thoughts, anything else you
got? Just looking forward to, like I said, recapping these games. There was, like I said, some exciting matchups, some newcomers, especially in the 6A level, and some that went to, like I said, to penalty kicks and so forth. So and we did have a one repeat champion. So unlikely one, but hey, you, you,
We had
you
2? We had 2. Oh, you're talking about day 3, you mean? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, for
Yeah,
day three, yeah, for day three, yeah.
yeah, gotcha. Gotcha. Good deal. Awesome. So, hey, we're gonna go ahead. Let's bring it up here. All right. So again, we're here to talk about our UIL Day 3 state recap, and it's talking all things 6A, D1, and D2. And then, of course, we've got a lot to dive into. So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna kick it off. We're going to start with our very first match of the day on Saturday, April 11th, 2026, in which Round Rock took on the Keller Indians, and in a match that it was very surprising in terms of, not totally shocking in terms of how it started. Right, Keller jumped out to a one nil lead, and in that moment, probably, I don't know, maybe 3 4 minutes after Keller had taken the lead, I'm in I'm in the press box. I'm talking with the other coaches as we're analyzing, watching, studying the game, and I kind of told them, it's like, hey, the handful of times that I'd seen Round Rock, they were very dominant early in the year, but then they almost seem to play better when they're from behind. They almost seem to play better when they're down. And sure enough, probably within the next 5 minutes, they get a goal, and Round Rock just never looked back. As Round Rock emerged, Round Rock really kind of seized control. You could see the pressure mounting. They got that first goal, and then after that, they just never looked back. Never really relinquished control. Dictated the game, set the tone. Keller was obviously very much game. They came to play, but in the end, it was too much Round Rock with the score of Round Rock 3, Keller 1. Coach.
Yeah, this is a interesting matchup because a couple newcomers here, especially Keller, that finally kind of broke the door through to get to this spot, and um, some thought maybe they might be the favored team, like I said, especially the path they took. But you got to give it a Ron Rock. I mean, like I said, they've been here a couple of times as far as getting to the state final four, and they also had, like I said, beat some quality teams too. I think that they weren't on phase of going down 1-0, and then made the right adjustments. Kept their composure, and then they just hit the switch and turned on to another level. I mean, they just took over from there and didn't look back. And I think Keller, maybe put the foot off the gas a bit after the first one. I think when you in these type of games, you do have once you get the first one, you definitely need to get the second one. Keep on the pressure, get that. Don't lose that momentum, and I think that's what happened here. And Round Rock, like I said, making those adjustments, was able to get three straight from there and hold on to the win and get their state title.
Yeah, you never got the impression, or at least I never did, that that Keller kind of let off the gas. It to me, it just kind of seemed more as if, I don't know. I think Round Rock just legitimately seized control. You saw the pressure mounting. You saw it building, and then when they got the first one, when they got the equalizer, it's like, okay, game on. Very much. Round Rock was obviously very much already in it. Then they got the second one not too long afterwards, and then that's when you knew, it's like, okay, Keller's got to chase it. Keller's got to push numbers forwards. Keller's got to do some. This was a more free flowing game. It's still a very physical game, but still a very much free flowing game compared to the Smithson Valley Walnut Grove match that we had seen at this 24 hours earlier, in which it was hard to get any fluidity in that one because it was a lot of start, stop, a lot of fouls, and as we know, a lot of cards. This one was there. This one, I think there was about 4 or 5 cards in this one, but could have possibly been more. But in this case, I thought the official seized good control, showed good discretion as to when to utilize card issue caution and when not to. But in the end, I just felt like it wasn't Keller, I think, letting off the gas. It was a little bit too much Round Rock in certain moments, in certain phases, in certain parts of the field. Final thoughts, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, well deserved win for Round Rock. Uh, especially for here for Region Four. They've come out short a couple of times in the past, especially against Region One teams, and uh, it's a great showing for them. Like I said, they're one of those teams there that was kind of had been knocking on the door for a while. They've been one of the, I guess, for Region Four, the team to kind of It's been year in, year out, just couldn't kinda get through that next step, and finally, they got the opportunity there in their backyard, and was able to put things everything together, and now they're taking the trophy back, and it's well deserved. And we'll see what it does for their program. Once you get that first one, do you take it to can they take it to that next level and be
Right.
one of those perennial powers?
Yeah, yeah, and the interesting thing about this is Round Rock captures their first. I did not know this. I did not realize this until we were talking about it afterwards. But Round Rock captures their first state title in any sport, I think, since 1999. So I was like, that was kind of just jaw dropping to in any sport, right? To see that. So congratulate congratulations to the Round Rock Lady Dragons. They are your 2026 6A girls D1 state champions. And shout out to our good friend Harry Austin Harold, who's in here with his usual nonsense, talking about Region 4, Region 2, and some more nonsense about Barcelona. So, Harry, thank you, but thank you, brother. Thank you for being in here. So we move on. That does it for our first match of the day. Second match of the day was our 6A boys D1 final featuring Klein Kane, the Hurricanes, and the Atascocita Don't Call Us Ambrosia Eagles. Thoughts? This one was very much a tug of war, back and forth, pull push, and in the end, Kane was able to pull away late, and gets the decisive winner off of a free kick, off of a foul that was in a very dangerous area, and Klein Kane emerges. I think I want to say it was in the last. I can't remember. I want to say 8 minutes. I
Hmm.
think. Correct me if I'm 8 or 16 minutes. I can't remember right now. But either way, off of a beautiful free kick in a foul that came off in a dangerous area, and that was ultimately the difference. As this game wore on, excuse me, it just seemed like Klein Kane kind of grew into the match more, whereas a Tascasita, very much game, very talented. As the game wore on, probably maybe started to slow down a little bit, having to adjust to a field the size of Birkelbach, right? Because that is one of the big things I think that sneaks up on people is that field, Birkelbach Stadium, that field is Birkelbach Field is much bigger, I think, than people realize. It kind of sneaks up on you, and then you're on the field, and you're like, okay, yeah, this is this is an adjustment, right? And if you've never played on a field that size over the course of an entire season, it is very much an adjustment. So, not saying that that was the case, but it just seemed those were one of the factors in terms of their style of play. So, in the end, Klein Kane emerges victorious late in the match on a set piece finish. Klein Kane won, the Tascosita 0. Coach.
Yeah, this is a game that, like I said, they faced each other early in the season, and they tied, so they were very familiar with one another. Um, and then knowing Klein Kane won it last year, kind of was like I said, like a Cinderella story, and like I said, they ended the fairy tale winning the title. This year, like I said, they had a little slip up in district, and we weren't sure what they were gonna, do in the playoffs, especially in that first round game. That they were an underdog to a very good Bridgeland team, and I honestly think winning that game pretty much built their confidence up here, and they just kind of steamrolled the way to this point. And you got to give it to them. Like I say, they being, I think, with the advantage they had, they were here last year, and especially being familiar with the field, and the pressure, to get to this point. And as we see, they haven't been there. Like I said, they had to knock off some really good teams, especially like Salmon Lakes, and like you mentioned, they kind of ran out of. Like I say, ran out of gas. It just kind of slowed down the pace. They were trying to, kind of impose their will, get it early, get some goals early on, but you got to give it Klein Kane. They absorb, and then finally took an advantage. And then sometimes a game like that, when it's evenly tight, a set piece could be the big difference here, whether a corner kick or a free kick outside. That's the opportunity. They took full advantage of it, and that's all they needed. And like I say, Klein Kane here repeating as state champions. I think you're off, coach. You might.
Yeah, sorry. Sometimes the double click, I don't hear the double click on my mute there. Sorry. But so yeah, this was a factor. The ref having making a call, a no goal on a corner kick there in the second half, and what I appeared to be, I think it wasn't clear. I don't think he was off. I think it was signaled as a foul. Was I don't know if it was a phantom phantom foul or if it was an actual offside, but it was called off. Was called off late in the match, and yeah, to this day, not sure what was the call. Do you guys know? It was not 100%. I would have to go back and watch the film on that because even us, the coaches evaluating the games, were not crystal clear. And I think the flag, I can't remember if the flag went up on that or not. So, but yeah, that was called. That was late in the match, and that was a factor, right? Because the Tascasita would have been up one nil at that point. So, but in the end, Klein Kane, and you're right, Coach. I think there was a certain point in this match in that second half where you could see the uh, and some of it is just the way Klein Kane, Coach Carrasco has Klein Kane just well coached in terms of they don't get rattled, right? They just don't get rattled. They Some of it was experience, and some of it is just the mentality of that team where they just was like okay, they just continue to grind. They continue to grind. Tascasita came out fast. Tascasita came out flying, connecting passes, and Tascasita had control at times very early. But the longer this game went, continued to stay nil nil, excuse me, you just got the impression that Klein King was just trying to pick their spots, right? Pick their spots. And then when that goal got called back from Atascocita, that you can make the argument that that kind of took the wind out of their sails to a certain extent, right? But they did get looks. They did get opportunity. Atascocita did get opportunities. So it's not like that was the one and only opportunity that they had. But in the end, too much. It is a little bit too much on set pieces for Klein Kane, and that one free kick is the difference with the final. Klein Kane 1, Atascocita 0, as the Klein Kane Hurricanes repeat as your 6A boys D1 state champions. All right, we move on to our third match of the day, a match I was very much looking forward to seeing. I wasn't able to cover the whole thing, but excuse me, uh, a match where we definitely got our money's worth and definitely turned into a more of a far more interesting match than I think a lot of people anticipated. Because going into this match, Forney had the firepower. Everybody wanted to watch them. They were the heavy favorite coming into this, and after knocking off perennial power South Lake Carroll in the state semifinal, a lot of people felt that that was kind of the de facto state final, right? And the winner of that one would not necessarily walk their way into the final, but would definitely be able to handle the state final and win the state title. But I guess Kingwood Kingwood never got the memo, right? Forney gets a goal about 6 minutes into the match, and you start looking at they scored pretty convincingly, pretty easily in a build-up, and then you just saw it was like, okay, this could be a long day, and then Kingwood just settled in and just hunkered down and absorbed. Had their opportunities, definitely had some opportunities to score as well, and then it was a one nil score at the half. That's when I knew it's like okay, Kingwood is starting to figure this out. Forney just kind of I don't know if it was they just after they got the first goal so quick thought maybe hey these are going to continue to just come and come and come and so not to worry about it. And then next thing and this was again these were two teams that hadn't been there in recent memory, even though Kingwood has state titles in their pedigree. And Forney's I don't know was it Forney's maybe the experience factor, maybe. Not sure, but next thing you know, 46 seconds left in the match. All right, and Kingwood's able to strike off of a rebound, off of a putback. 46 as Forney was 46 seconds away from being crowned state champions. They grind through two overtime periods, and then Kingwood is able to survive and rise as the victor in penalties, 4-2, and Kingwood emerges as your 6A girls D2 state champions in penalties. Coach, thoughts?
Yeah, this is a really interesting game. Like I said, Fournier had pretty much all the momentum going into this. Knocking off some of the like I said, they knocked out South Lake Curl, and that like I said, when you knock off a team like that, you're the favorite. But I don't think Kingwood had a memo on that, and like I said, they were going in undefeated. Um, they hadn't made the state tournament, I think, in almost, I think, 22 years. And like I said, the Kingwood's been, like I said, they have a couple state titles. I think they're one of the team of the 90s, too, is one of the dominant teams there in the 90s. And so it's been a while for them, but you know, when you keep a team around, around and around like that, like I said, 1-0 and Fournier unable to get that second goal. I think if they got maybe a second goal, I think that kind of put things away. But you got to give it a King when they find a way. Like I said, all the way to the last minute, able to get the equalizer, and then when you take it to extra time, try to they kept on kept at it, and then they were just able to prevail. And it sucks losing in a shootout. That's kind of the way I've been in that situation. Losing a game like that in shootouts. But you got to give it a King. Like I said, a great season for them. I think their first title like in 27 years.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I think it's
so
their 3rd
yeah,
overall.
it's the third overall. Yeah, that's it. They
Yeah.
hadn't won the game. They haven't won since '99. So, and this is like I said, this is a program that's had a lot of history. It just hasn't
Right.
been here in a while, and who's to say this is maybe the beginning for that program to really be kind of resurrected and get that, you know, be that state part that it was in the '90s. So congrats to them. And then Fournier, like I said, second year in a row for making in the state tournament. How do they go for this for next year? Do they learn from this? You know, I'm sure they'll be back at it again. Like I said, they've
Oh, yeah.
really built themselves a really great program, and there's nothing to be ashamed about. Like I said, to come out of that region, Region Two, it's tough, and especially when you're matched up with Region One in the state semifinals, it's like a really basically like a state final game too as well. So, but I think I expect good things from Forney. I think they laid the foundation, and I won't be surprised they'll be contending again next year, and hopefully, maybe like I said, they get the opportunity to come back and win one.
Yeah, yeah. This Forney squad is not going anywhere by any means. So I would say don't don't count them out. They'll definitely be back. They have a lot of talent coming back. Coach Williamson has she's built them the right way, right? So where it's gonna sustain there, especially as long as she stays there. But lots of talent, but very well coached. And they come up, I mean, unfortunately, really, they come up 46 seconds short, right?
Mm,
And Kingwood, I mean, Kingwood emerges here as state champion and one of 3 teams that went undefeated on the season that finishes state champion. Um, and I think a lot of that got lost in all of this with Kingwood as to how more than anything as to just how resilient this squad is, right? And they can just absorb, absorb, absorb. Never seem to get really rattled. And then we called them a team of destiny, right? As they were able to led by playing with heavy hearts in a season that was dedicated to their former coach, Impress Holcomb, who had just passed last year after suffering a long time battle. Um, and I don't know, maybe they had a 12th man on the field with them, right, looking over them, because you just got that impression that they were just a team of destiny, right, a team that never got rattled. Um, insert I don't know, you can insert whatever I guess cliche you like, but that's the reality, right? You just got this impression that this team was just never out of it, always under control, and didn't matter, not too high, not too low, even keel. And here they are. They emerge as your Kingwood Lady Mustangs emerge as your 6A girls D2 state champions. All right, and we move on. Next, our fourth and final match of the day, our 6A boys D2 final between the Summer Creek Bulldogs and the Woodlands College Park Cavaliers. And this one kind of had the makings of a classic, right? Summer Creek takes the lead early. College Park bounces back in the second half with about 30 minutes to go. And then from there, it was just an all out, just grind back and forth, wear and tear. They battled to the end through 2 overtimes, and it comes down to PKs. And College Park emerges 5-3 and captures their first. These were 2 teams chasing their first state title. And Coach O'Quinn, who we had recently had on the podcast as well, he just has done a tremendous job with the Summer Creek Bulldog squad as well. This was the kind of game where you don't want to see a loser, and it comes down to penalties as we had just talked about. But in the end, College Park prevails at 5-3 in penalties, and they emerge as your 6A boys D2 state champions. Coach.
yeah, another great game to finish the 2026 season. Lots of it's going to come down to penalty kicks. Like I said, I guess that's the kind of the dramatic way to end things for the season. And I think Summer Creek, they I think they felt good. You know how the quality wins they've had to get to this point. But like I said, you gotta give it a College Park. College Park's kind of been in the shadow of the Woodlands all these years because the Woodlands always gets a lot of the accolades. Have been one of the state powers the last you know decades. And you can say College Park, being the sister school, finally gets to this point and has an opportunity to kind of get out of that shadow and props to them to win it in PKs and I'm sure I think that's a great foundation for them. And we'll see how they do in 2027. But I expect also some great things also for Summer Creek. I think this is just the beginning for them, and
Right.
they're gonna. I think they're gonna be a team to be reckoned with next year and beyond because they're well coached, lots of great talent on that squad. Um, yeah, just like I said, I think that's one of the teams. Like I said, just keep it on your radar because I think they're gonna learn from this. You know, build this. Like I said, these games kind of build like foundations for a lot of the programs. It's sometimes it takes a loss to come back and win a title, and I think this is one that's going to help them out, and it's going to attract like I said, a lot more kids to the program, so forth. They get develop the talent, and like I said, will not be surprised if Summer Creek will be back in this situation.
Yeah, these matches oftentimes you'll see this right with the teams in the finals, right? Sometimes it's not always both teams. It just kind of depends what's going on there, what they bring back, what they graduate. But one of the two teams that typically is in the final, this match acts as a springboard going into the following year, right? In terms of momentum going forward into the next season. Whether if it's the losing team, they're able to finally break through into the following year. They take that momentum, and they contend, make a deep run, or challenge for a state title the next year as well. Or it's the team that wins the state title, and here they are in Klein King, perfect example. Who Klein Kane was a school that had never won a state playoff game ever in the history of their program, and then last year they rattled off 6 wins, win a state title in a row, and now here they are, 6 more wins and a second state title, so 12 straight wins and now 2 straight titles after being a program that had not won a single state playoff game in their history, right? So that's kind of how it goes, right? It's hard to pinpoint. It's an inexact science, but that's what also makes it exciting. So again, congratulations to both squads. Congratulations to all our runner-ups and all our champions. College Park is your 6A boys D2 state champions. All right. And that does it for our four matchups. And now we want to go ahead. We're going to transition here. We want to look at what we want to discuss and kind of give them their flowers, as they say. Our 4A state final MVPs. I want to discuss these really quick as we're going to go through each classification. So our 4A D1 boys, Angel Cervantes Calvillo for Waco La Vega. Excuse me. For 4A D1 girls, Riley Stiffelmeyer of Salina. If I'm not mistaken, I think Riley might be the only back-to-back state finals MVP in the history of UIL soccer. Okay, so that's saying a lot, right? So we're verifying that, we're double checking that, but seems to be the thought process there. Our 4AD2 boys, Jared Contreras out of Bridgeport, who put probably the second best goal I saw this weekend in their final versus Brookshire Royal. And then for 4AD2 girls, Emma Durkin from Wimberley. Coach, thoughts on any of these?
Uh, just great, just great players. Um, they rise to the occasion. I think these are the players that rise to the occasion, and I think the one really kind of signed was Jerry Contreras. I think he really kind of took over that game against Royal. I mean, that's kind of like I don't want to put much of a comparison, kind of like that like when Maradona took over that game against England. Just you find a way, you rise, and you just put your signature on the game, stuff like that, and that's what I can think. What I kind of saw with him, that's you know
Hmm.
he led the way for that win. Because like I said, it didn't
Yeah.
look good for a while because they were down, but like I said, he put the weight on his shoulders on that team and carried them, and they were able to get the wins in the extra time and get those three, got those 3 goals. And like I said, I think he's the one that really kind of stood out there for the 4A finals.
Yeah, and the Durkins for Wimberley, sister,
Mhm,
twin sister scored a goal too. Drawing a blank on her first name, but scored, kept it all in the family. And I think she had the game, what I think was the game winner, if I'm not mistaken.
mhm, mhm,
So yeah, so shout out to the Durkin family. I think, and if correct, I'm pretty sure Wimberley has two, if not three, sets of twins on their team too. So just another random stat there. So, but that does it for our 4A state final MVPs. We move on and we look at our 5A state final MVPs for 5A D1 boys. Mason Kutch of Walnut Grove. 5A D1 girls. Alondra Sanchez of Smithson Valley. 5A D2 boys. Nolan Masker of Piper, who had 10 saves in that final in a heroic effort, and 5A D2 girls, Harper Montgomery of, I guess, keep it in the Montgomery name, right? Harper Montgomery of Montgomery Lake Creek. Thoughts on these, Coach?
and you have 3 MVPs from first-time teams that won state titles. Especially the game winner from Alondra and then also from Lowland. It's like I said, it's a dream come true to have also two state titles in the same school district too as well. So congrats to them on that. And then like I said, Harper, like I said, great game from her. Like I said, she rose to the occasion on that. Even though that game got tied, they came back. They just didn't quit, found that third one. And then with Mason, like I said, back to back undefeated state championships. I mean, that's an accomplishment there.
Oh yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah. That Walnut Grove squad, pretty amazing. Now they finally graduate a bulk of that talent, right? A bulk of that talent. So what will they look like next year? Because you got to remember, they go up to. Do they have a ton of talent coming back? Absolutely. They're and just loaded, even in goalkeeper, right? But uh, what will they look like next year as they make that ascension to 6A, right? That's one thing to keep in mind. And Smithson Valley, Smithson Valley and Piper, in case you missed our day one, day two recap, the significance of not only two schools from the same school district, but two schools from the San Antonio boys and girls program from the San Antonio area. That has never been done, where two schools, boys and girls, winning a state title in the same year. That has never been done in the 44 years of the UIL, of UIL Texas high school soccer. So the significance of that is obviously extremely significant in terms of not just high school soccer, Texas high school soccer, but then of course in the greater San Antonio area, and it also speaks to significance in terms of girls soccer in the greater San Antonio area, or the first state title in soccer since 1995, Madison High School. So that just that, and then the fact that they come from the same school district is, I guess, kind of the icing on the cake. So so big kudos to the San Antonio area, and as well as Comel ISD, and of course, full disclosure, that is a school school district I am also a part of. So want to make sure I share that as well. Don't want to come across as a homer, but I do want to share that as well. So yeah, so pretty historic MVPs, pretty historic performances across the board here when you look at these, including three, just as you said, Rafa, three first time state champions, right? So
mhm.
great job. But that does it for our 5A state final MVPs, and we move on and we look at our final set of state final MVPs. 6A D1 boys, Noah Ballard of Klein Kane. 6A D1 girls, Aiden Hernandez of Round Rock. 6A D2 boys, Salim Sharif of College Park, of Woodlands College Park. And 6A D2 girls, Tyler Weaver of Kingwood. Thoughts on these, Coach?
I think kind of the same thing with like with the 5A. Like I said, these players, like I said, eh, when you get the MVPs, like I said, you rise to the occasion. You really, like I said, put the things on your shoulder, and like I said, all 4 players did that. Whether they went to the penalty kicks or getting the winning in regulation. Like I said, it's these 4 did what they had to do out there, and that's why they got the recognition. For these games, like I said, I think with Aiden Hernandez, like I said, she had a great game. Um, Leading Round Rock, I know they weren't fair for that, but they found a way, and I think, like I said, it's Salim also, like I said, leading his team to getting the title. So like I said, for all 4 of them, like I said, just great job out there on the field. Like, I think their leadership proves that, and that's what they're being recognized for these MVPs.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. And congratulations to our our 12 state final MVPs. It was not easy, trust me. And one of the things you got to mention, these are selected along with, and you can go on the UIL soccer website as well. Go to the state tournament information. You can also go as well as on Twitter X. You can go on there, excuse me, and find the state final, the or not the state final, but the all state tournament teams. Which of course, there's got a lot of questions on that over the weekend, but those do extend to the state semifinals, right? Even though we don't have a traditional state tournament format anymore, those do include the other two teams that made it to the state semifinals. So that's one thing worth mentioning. And then, of course, these teams are selected by a combination of the Texas Association of Soccer Coaches, which is TASCO, as well as members of the media, particularly the finals MVP. So excuse me, shout out and congratulations to all 12 of our state finals MVPs, which is it's always a daunting task because we had a lot of great performances. But all right, that is going to do it for the first half of our show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after a quick word from. In the market for a new home, or maybe you'd just like to get more information? Then let us tell you about our new proud partner and title sponsor, Jeanette Spain at TexasVeteranRealtor.com, your go-to realtor for military and veteran families in Central Texas. With her cover and move I've got your six approach, you focus on the move while she handles the contracts, the deadlines, and even the details. Want a realtor who works like you and fights for you? Then you need to visit Jeanette Spain at TexasVeteranRealtor.com for your free no-pressure strategy session. Again, that's Jeanette Spain at TexasVeteranRealtor.com, as well as at 737-210-5812. And then there are our great friends at Gipper. Gipper is a way that schools, athletic departments, ADs, and coaches create world-class marketing content. Join over 4,000 coaches and ADs and use Gipper to create high-quality, visual branded graphics for your program. The best part, anyone can do it in seconds on any device without needing any design experience whatsoever. If you do have significant experience in this process, then this is designed for you as well, as you are what they call the power user. Listeners of the 50/50 podcast can now receive 10% off any first-time Gipper purchase. Simply visit gipper.com/partner/5050 to learn more. Again, that's gipper.com/partner/5050 to learn more. All right, we are back. It is season 6, episode 13 of Inside Texas High School Soccer. Thank you. If you're just joining us, we just did our recap of day 3, the 6A edition, as well as looking at the state final MVPs for 4A, 5A, and 6A. Rafa, any reattacks, anything before we move on to the second half of the show?
Just like I said, we had some out of the 3 games, some exciting games, some exciting matchups, some the usual dramatics. Like I said,
Yeah.
I guess certain missed calls, like some of the comments we're reading and stuff. But that's just the nature of the game.
Right.
And it's at the end, like I said, you know, sometimes the best team doesn't always win.
Yeah.
Depending on your position or how many shots you put on, you know,
I
on
can, I can,
target and
attest,
stuff.
I can attest to that personally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not always goes in your favor, but for all the teams, like I said, I think it's very difficult to get to this point because basically, like I said, you're the final 2 teams in each division, and to come out of this, says a lot. And like I said, these type of games also help kind of build your programs. They're the I guess the bridge to becoming those elite programs like the ones that we have, like you mentioned, like the Wakelands, and like I said with Salinas, teams like that. So some of these teams, like I said, this is the foundation, and they set the bar for the future players, the underclassmen, and um, it's like I said, it's great to see. Like I said, from this format, we're starting to see a lot more first time champions. So I think that's
Yeah.
the great part about that.
And that's the perfect segue that takes us to exactly what we're going to talk about next, highlighting our last year. If you recall, out of our 12 state champions, we had 9 first-time state champions. This year, almost duplicated. We come up one. We have one less. It was 8 out of the 12. So you kind of do the math on that, right? Out of our 24, what is that? 17 of our 24,
Mhm.
right? So you do the math on that. That's just under what 75, what 72, 71% maybe. So our first time in the new format, the D1, D2 era, 17 of our 24 state champions have been first time state champions. Uh, what are your, before we dive in and kind of look at all of these thoughts on that, coach?
I mean, it's great. It's opportunities for these teams, and like I said, we saw it firsthand last year. This year, we had some that maybe we thought we are gonna kind of repeat. Some couple of them fell short. But some that I think we knew they were kind of they've had it kind of not say had it in the bag, but we knew they were gonna be there. Got it done. Um, but like I said, from these first time winners, it's a great feeling because some of them came up short the year before. If you look at Wimberley, they came up short in PKs and they came back and they were able to get one. Spencer Valley has been knocking on the door the last few years in the semifinals, and finally they get to this point and they finish undefeated. It's a great season for them. Um, Same thing with Piper. Last year kind of instead of being in the D2 bracket, they ended with D1 and got eliminated. By Southwest, and here back in the D2 made a run, knocked off a defending state champ to get to this point. So it's great to see this, and we'll see how many of these actually will repeat next year. Who's got a good chance to repeat for next
Right,
year?
right. Yeah, and of our 8 of note at the 4A level, so the breakdown was 4 or 4, I'm sorry, 3 at the 4A level, 3 at the 5A level, and 2 at the 6A level. So at the 4A level, D1 boys Waco La Vega, 4A D2 girls Wimberley, and 4A D2 boys Bridgeport, all making their first, all getting their first state titles. Wimberley, of course, as we know, it was kind of the redemption tour for them after the heartbreak last year. Then moving on to 5A, so 5A D1 girls, Smith and Comel Smith and Valley getting their first attempt at a state in a state title match, winning their first ever state title. Congratulations, Coach Atkins. And we talked about him on Friday night as well, right? Having a dream Friday, one for the ages, right? Where he wins his girl squad wins a state title in the first game of the day on Friday, then comes back to watch his boys win a state title in dramatic fashion for Kamel Piper over Frisco Wakeland for in the last match of the day in the 5A D2 boys final. So dream day for them, for the Atkins family. Congratulations to him.
I'm sure they're gonna be with the championship ring. See who has the better looking one. I'm sure they're gonna
5A D2 girls, 5A D2 girls, Montgomery Lake Creek, and then 5A D2 boys, as we just mentioned. Piper, we talked about them earlier as well, the significance of them in Smith Valley. And then 6A Round Rock, which I mean, probably the stat of the day on Saturday that blew my mind. The fact that they claimed the first state title in any sport for Round Rock since 1999. So pretty incredible stuff. I did not know that. And then in the 6A, and then in our last match of the season of the 2025-2026 season, College Park makes in a great one, in a classic one in penalties. College Park 6A D2 boys state final. So, any follow up on this, Coach?
no, just like I said, just congrats to them again. And like I said, we do see some couple team. I know with Piper, they're going to be moving up to 6A. See what the momentum, winning the state title 5A, going into 6A, can they carry that? Because like I said, they are gonna face some good quality teams, not only in district play, but also in especially in the first round, second round games there because with Region 4. So they got, like I said, we'll see. Could they pull off? I forgot who was it. A Dripping Springs win win a 5A and then win a 6A title. You know, so we'll see. We can they can do that, and then I think Wimberley might be the one that out of this list. It could be the one that could repeat again. I think with we've seen in the changes in Region 4 for 4A. I know that district did get a little bit tougher. There's a couple, like I said, when we'll get to that point and we're talking about the districts, but I think they still have the talent, they have the bases there to make another deep run. I'm sure Canyon Lake and a couple of other teams may have a different say on that, but I think that's one team that I think has a good opportunity of repeating. I think maybe even Waco La Vega too. I think they got a good shot,
Yeah,
good talent,
yeah.
especially in Region Three.
Yeah, and we talk about how the shifting, the changing landscape of 4A, right? And I mean, not even just within that. You talk about like you look at Smithson Valley, for example, the shifting landscape in 5A, right?
Yeah,
With in terms of within regions, right? So this will affect Smithson Valley is going to very much one because it's a Jason Atkins coach squad, but two, some of those perennial powers out of the Austin area from 5A are either they've now gone to they will go to
Region
6A
Three.
or they will move over to Region 3, right? So how will that impact them? You talked about Comal Piper already, about Piper going up to 6A, and they will be part of the newly reloaded 27 6A. So we'll get to welcome them to the 6A ranks. How they do again, also a very well coached squad. So how quick can they make the adjustment will be will be the key. That's a great point though. So all right, that does it for our first time champs. And then our last thing we wanted to go ahead and discuss and look over. That's one of the things that's often discussed, and part of what was a surprise of the weekend. So our regional title breakdown, right? So which teams, rather than just looking at the records, we look at which teams claimed state titles over the championship weekend, and breakdown by region. Region one winning one title, region two four titles, region three three titles, and region four probably the surprise, the talk of the weekend. Region four going 4-1, winning four titles. Thoughts? What stands out to you in this one, Coach?
I think the one that stands out is Region One with only one. I mean, they've been the dominant region the last few years, and just to have one, which was was a little head scratcher there, and but you see the resurgence of Region Three and Region Four, and then like I said, Region Two is kind of a mix of of the Metroplex, East Texas, Houston area. But normally, like I said, Region One's kind of had their way, and I think things are starting to balance out. And like I said, maybe next year it changes. Maybe Region One ends up with four or five. But it's good to see. You know, especially the Houston area kind of bounce back, and I think this is something we kind of discussed in our little chat, and um, see those Houston area teams, finally get some state titles, and then Region Four, can't be, can be proud of that. I know a few years have kind of fallen short, but this year they're able to kind of get it together and able to get four of them, and like I said, one in each classification. So uh, some good things. I think they're learning a lot. I think the key out of this, I think they're learning how to, that scheduling games, especially teams in the region one, especially even region two, it's going to help you in the long run because that way you're familiar with them, the game speed of those type of teams, and then once you go and face them, and at this point of the season, you're not caught off guard, and I think that's some of the things. I think a lot of the these teams that are winning are you know are doing that. And I think for any team out there that's kind of knocking on the door, I think that's the thing is, having, tough schedules, I know it's good to have tough, scrimmages and so forth, but really, challenging yourself early on and going to some of these more elite tournaments, like I said, like the North Dakota Showcase, Allen Showcase, the Austin Lakes ones, those are the ones that you want to go to, and that's going to help you out because in the end, you're going to see those type of teams when you get to the state semifinals and the state finals. I'm not sure. I think we lost coach here.
No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, because
Yeah,
I
my
see
camera.
El
Yeah,
Gato.
my camera just disappeared on me there. So that's why I was like, "What is going on?" But no, I am here. I am here. So we're gonna go ahead and we'll go off of. I am currently El Gato. So so regardless, yeah, yeah, I agree. I think the talk, like we said, not sure technical difficulties here. With my camera just decided to act up, but regardless, I think that. Yeah, I think we knew a lot of the talk going into this weekend, championship weekend, was Region Two, Region Three, um, and I think Region One, kind of old faithful, right? You just kind of expected that they were going to have a say in this, and it was surprising. And Region Four just kind of seemed to be an afterthought, and a surprise, surprise. I think that's why it was very much, very much the talk of the weekend in many regards, as well as Region Two. So kudos to Region Two as well. But yeah, very much a surprise. I don't know what was the bigger surprise, Region Four or Region One, in terms of the extremes. But nevertheless, thoughts? Any thoughts when you look at the trend in the D1 D2, coach, last year and then now this year, right? After 2 years, we've gone through one cycle. We're about to enter a new alignment. What are your thoughts on this now after we've seen one full cycle of this?
I think it does work to a certain point, but I still kind of hear the little rumblings about, there are some teams that have D1 enrollment that shouldn't be playing in, in D2, but that's just the way the districts are. It's not, like I said, it's not a perfect system. I think the only way that gets fixed, and like I said, I know we can't do it in this because the realignment's already passed, but I guess in the next realignment, is actually have an actual splitting of the districts within D1 and D2 to match, the enrollments for each, for the schools. Um, but like I said, it's still exciting in the game because remember in the past we didn't have D1 and D2, so you still had to beat some of the big the big boy
Yeah,
schools that had all
yeah,
the enrollment. So,
yeah.
and then remember there was only one state title back then too. So, and then until they made that split to the 5A, 4A, 5A,
Yeah.
and then now we have the three divisions. It's you still got to you still have 11 players on the field.
Mhm.
You still got to play. I mean,
Yeah.
it's no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of people give the input, give the feedback, give the opinion. At the end of the day, guess what? You still got to go out there. The D1 D2 split preseason just doesn't appear like it's going to be. It's not on the horizon for the UIL just because of how much more trying to break things apart is. It's not. Doesn't appear the feedback we're getting is it's nowhere near as simple. I think as people think, just based upon a number of factors, not to include travel, size of districts, what have you. Uh, so the inequity there, I guess, is a whole other factor, right? So I guess this will continue to be at least through this next cycle, right? This new realignment cycle that we'll see the 26 through 28 cycle. This is not going anywhere in terms of the current format. So it won't be a pre-selection or a whether if you're going D1 or D2. So that said, did certain teams obviously capitalize given their enrollments, and yet they were able to, for lack of better words, sneak into Division Two? Yeah, of course they did. So, and rightfully so. It's not a knock on them. That's just the system that's currently adopted. That's currently in. So, but yeah, that is going to do it for our talks here. So uh, so yeah, little nice little friendly talk there from Coach Heyman. So yeah, so I mean, just interesting stuff, man. I think what it will look like. I think my what I've been looking at has been more of the 2030 cycle, right? So I guess I don't know. I don't know if that would be the 28, the 2028 to 2030, or on the other side of that, the 2030 to 2032. Somewhere in there between the 2028 to 2030 window, somewhere in there, I think is when we finally see the arrival of either 7A or 3A, one or the other. But I think that is the target window in terms of the numbers, because ideally, what the UIL is telling us is we need approximately 100. The sweet spot is about at least 120 schools for a classification, right? Uh, but to do that, you're going, but a minimum of 100, right? But even then, 100 is not ideal. Probably the best spot is at least 120 in a classification to be able to pull that off. So, uh, yeah. So, Coach, that does it for our look back at not only day three, but also our state final MVPs, and as well as our regional title breakdown. But we shift gears here. We start wrapping up. We start looking back at 2025, 2026. Couple of questions here for you. So, first one, if you could describe the season, you look back on it, right? Describe the season in maybe a sentence or two. How would you describe it to somebody that didn't get a chance to watch that 1 second of the 2025, 2026 Texas high school soccer season? How would you describe it?
I think a lot of us very unpredictable, especially when we got to when we made our, I guess our picks, especially during the bracketology. We saw a lot of upsets, and that's I think that key to see about this season. But also, I think what I saw this season is some teams, you know, take that next step, or some teams that kind of bounce back. They didn't have such a good season before, really kind of flex their muscle this year, and um, you know, there's a lot of exciting games. Some great programs. Like I know this year I had some newer programs get into the
Yeah.
into the my my power rankings and so forth. And then it made it, like I said, it made it more difficult, especially on the girls' side. I can vouch for this. Is like excuse me, having like close to 40 teams just for 20 spots is it's just difficult, and it's difficult to kind of kind of pick and choose.
This is why we pay you the big bucks, man.
Yeah, and then like I said,
This is what makes the RPI so awesome, right? When you're really looking at 15 to 20 spots, right? Regardless of classification, right? That's what we talked about it. I've talked about it with a lot of people, and that's like probably one of the best pieces that they like about your particular rankings, right? Ratings poll in the RPI, right? So,
yeah,
so yeah, I get it. And don't forget, right? In maybe one of our next episodes, Rafa will unveil his final RPI of the year. So this way, you guys can really harass him going. You'll have the whole summer and fall to harass him going into next year. So, and Coach Heyman's back in here. He's calling. He's of course always making it about himself. The year of the Blazer, right? So not so much, my friend. I think had I seen you in Birkelbach, then we would have claimed it the year of the Blazer. But looking good nevertheless. And yeah, I mean, big shout out to his uh, his boys at Baytown Sterling. He's built a great, solid program, very good program there, and what they're doing there. So more great things. That's a team. That's a program to keep your eye on going into next year for sure. So, but yeah, so so we talk about describing the season, Coach. What about maybe biggest takeaways? Maybe if you could pick one or two of your biggest takeaways this year, that a trend, something that you noticed was kind of maybe different that caught your eye, something that you thought was new, that or maybe something a new iteration of something you hadn't seen in a long time, but something that was a big one or two big takeaways on this season. Could be on the boys' side, could be on the girls' side, could be the game on both sides.
I think one of the things I'm starting to see the trends even more is teams are starting to really challenge themselves more in the beginning of the season. I think they fully understand that if you have to play quality teams to be prepared, and I know a lot of teams are very kind of stacking a lot of their scrimmages. I take scrimmages as a grain of salt because basically you're just trying to figure out what your roster, your rotation, and so forth. They're good. They're not good evaluators, but when it comes to non-district and tournaments or showcases, you're starting to see teams, and I'm starting to see like teams that I'll give one perfect example, and this kind of close. One of the teams on the border, like I said, like I've noticed some of the Laredo teams, they're traveling over here to go to Georgetown or go to the Lakes tournaments, showcases. They fully understand they have to challenge themselves because they're going to see these type of teams maybe 2, 3, 4 deep in the playoffs, and then you're starting to see some teams from here go to the Dallas, area. Well, I looked at your schedule. I mean, you stacked your schedule this year, so I mean,
Yeah, yeah, I
but
did.
you
What an
and
idiot. Yeah.
but like I said, but that's but you have a game plan for that. You fully understand. You're gonna see those type of teams, and you want to challenge your players. Can they get out of if they fall behind in those type of games, can they find what are they going to do to get out of this? How to come back, win those games, or and so forth. and that's what I'm starting, like I said, starting to see the trend now
Right.
more and more. If you want to be up there, you have to, really set up a schedule. And like I said, not maybe all the teams are have that luxury
Yeah.
because, like I said, sometimes you have limitations in your districts, but
Yeah.
where the school districts you're in. But I'm starting to see more of that, and like I said, teams are traveling farther distance. If you see, like I said, the biggest road warriors are your El Paso teams. They're going to the Dallas areas, and it gets a perfect example.
Mhm.
You saw what Burgess did, and we saw what Americas did. They're playing teams, and they know that they're gonna have to face down the road. So I
Mhm.
think that's the trend I'm starting to see is their teams are starting to challenge themselves, but also I think what's helping out is more the participation of the coaching school. I think they fully understand that going to the coaching school, you're going to learn a lot of new ideas. You're going to see what the trends are. How can you develop your players? I know it's not like club where you have a lot of time to do it. Here you have a short time. What can I do to kind of develop those players, and also developing my off-season programs? What are these? What do these college coaches? The pro coaches. They're at the coaches clinic. Where what can work for us? What can the type of players who they are, working the psychology of the players too. What can we do to help that to get that edge, and moving forward and make my
Yeah.
program very strong and then becoming elite.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well said, exceptionally well said. And yeah, I think that it's awesome to see in terms of coaches, coaches putting their programs out there, extending their programs in a good way. Again, just I think the only thing I would say is just is understand, and I think coaches have evolved on this a lot. Some more than others, and but especially just having the understanding of, particularly when you have a healthy amount of club players as well, is their workload, particularly as they are filtering the tail end of their fall club seasons, December, January. I mean, there really is. I think it's probably an old myth, a faded out myth at this point in terms of a fall and a spring season in club soccer, because they just continue to further and further bleed into the high school season. It just seems like there's something in December, something in January, something in February, and then you get something in March, and then you got Dallas Cup, of course, as we all know, in April. So yeah, just having that awareness as well, but particularly when you're transitioning, when they go from where they're the tail end of their club season, the set amount of practices, the set amount of games. Maybe it's a showcase here or there, and then you have some scrimmages, or you're finally getting the ball rolling, playing in some showcases yourself in January. I think it's just having that awareness as well, and not overloading them. Just because we have three quote unquote tournament weekends in January does not mean that you have to play in all three of them, right? Traditionally speaking, I'm not a big I'm not a big fan of those. But I do like the showcase format better, where you know exactly when, where, and who you're playing, one game a day, and I think your team can learn a lot in that way as well. And you're right. I think you can be exposed to different styles, different competition from different regions, teams you normally wouldn't see that will test you in different ways. So a lot to grow there, both not just as players but even as coaches. So yeah, completely agree with that. Biggest memories. One thing, probably one of the coolest things you saw, memory or two that really stands out to you from either what you saw on social media, through our show, and of course the games, the matches that you covered. I'm going to ask you something about a match, specifically about a match you covered later, but just so don't limit yourself to just that. But maybe one of the coolest things you saw, biggest memories of this season.
I think the biggest memory is being at a game that I got to see back to back Mercy Rule games. I never experienced that. So kudos to the Blitzkrieg there in Salado. I had never experienced that before. They're texting Steve. It's like, hey, look, I want to be the first one to have back to back Mercy Rule games. So that was, I guess, the first for me. I think other games too. What I think one of the biggest ones is seeing a 2A team, you know, play. I know they played a TAPS team, but there was their varsity game, and I went to go. It's one of the newest programs. I know they're not in the currently in a district yet. Maybe they will be. Maybe they're working on that. But then talking to them, like I said, they only had 11 players, actually 12 players on the roster. They only had one person on the bench, but very excited because they won their game. And I talked to the players afterwards. They're excited, to have an opportunity to have a varsity soccer team. I know they told me this is their second year, even though playing an independent, schedule. But like I said, they said that they didn't have much, prior to this, they didn't have a lot of opportunities to play a sport that they love, and now they're getting it. And they're hoping to actually get to play, within, like I said, an actual district, and compete for, for playoffs and so forth. So that was, shout out to Center, like I said, the Center Point High School. Like I said, they're one of the newer programs that I got to see this year. I think I'm trying to think of other games. Like I said, I think the other is getting the opportunities when I do get to travel, especially with work, seeing games. Seeing the games in West Texas when I'm in West Texas, or when I'm in Killeen and Waco and so forth, the Laredo. It's always good to see different styles of plays, different type of players, and all that. It's just like I said, it's good to see you know the growth of the sport, and seeing also the fans starting to kind of fill up too, at those games as well.
Yeah. Biggest memory. I guess I should have just asked this separately, but biggest memory from a two parts. Biggest memory that comes to mind from a game you went to, a specific thing, as well as on the show. Anything?
I think for the game is when I saw here just down the street from where I live at.
They didn't pay the bill, man.
Yeah, somebody did not pay the bill. Oh, or well, somebody didn't know how to drive. No, it was. I guess you could say the weather. Having
Oh
a
yeah, that was the power line with the
power
wind
line.
day,
Yeah,
right? That's
yeah,
what.
yeah,
Yeah, no, no,
yeah.
no.
That was
Forgot
a
about that. Forgot about that.
that was the most windy. Well, I take that back. It's probably the second most windiest game I ever been. Um,
Yeah,
being at two power outages there at Ferris was like right before, during the half, and then right after the game and so forth. That
yeah.
was
I'm sure Northside ISD appreciates you giving them a shout out on
but
that.
no blame to
Not that
them.
it was
Like
their
you
fault.
said,
Not that it was their fault. But
no blame to them, but blame up CPS on that. So you can blame
right,
CPS for having
right, right.
faulty
Now, what about on
electric.
the show? Any cool memory? Any specific thing this season?
I think just talking to the coaches. I think that's the best part, because we get to talk to different coaches from all over the state. They have their stories, they have their backgrounds, and just loving sharing their love of the sport. And also when we have coaches we had in the past come on again, how their programs have evolved and so forth. And
Yeah, that is
um,
cool. That is
uh,
cool.
and that's a cool thing. And then um, I think also, like I said, you have legendary coaches too, like Coach Langford. I mean, you know, he's, like I said, like I mentioned in the last show, he's a world of knowledge when it comes to soccer. It's just
Hmm.
but also a lot of the stuff he's done too for the help that
Yeah,
I think is important for the growth of this. And I know is going to be missed, but I'm sure he's still going to be in the background, kind of helping out and so forth. But also seeing new programs, kind of rise, like Coach Carrasco when we had him last year. Now he's got his second title. It's
yeah.
I'm sure he,
They got their feelings hurt, man, because
yeah.
you and Steve didn't pick
Oh,
them. You and
well,
Steve didn't.
now they have the bulletin board. I guess maybe next year they probably don't want us to pick
Uh,
them again, so they're gonna make a third one. They get a third straight title.
I'm still waiting for somebody to ship me a bulletin board. So,
So
um, but yeah, yeah, no, yeah, all great points, all great stuff, and it just, yeah, you hit on a lot of great ones there. That's what makes this, that's what makes this show so awesome in terms of producing it. Going live is just kind of the icing on the cake, the stuff that maybe everyone gets to see, but the behind the scenes stuff, the stuff that, the conversations I have with coaches, the information, the conversations that you have with coaches as well. And then the information that we have, just like, like Coach, you talked about Coach Langford, right? Jimmy Langford at Frisco Wakeland, who has announced his retirement. I said on that, I said on that news for a few days, one, out of respect for him, and also because he had just broke the news to to his squad. So it was a little bit of public, but not quite. I wanted that to at least resonate with their community for a little bit, and then get his blessing. So that's something. Oftentimes, coaches, that's one thing that we take very serious here. You give us information, your trust. We make sure before we get stuff out there, we always look at our sources, and we don't want to be quick to be the first to break news. We want to be the ones to get the news that we break correct. Not just in a rush to be first, and half of it is false or the whole thing is false, right? So we're very aware of that. We take that very seriously. So just always be aware of that. And thank you to all our coaches, all our program administrators, right? ADs, conversations I've had with ADs who put trust and faith in sharing the information that they do with us, because we know some of it can be of just sensitive nature. So yeah, so we appreciate that. And one last question for you, Rafa. So you look back, we just were kind of hinting to it earlier, but biggest thing you think you anticipate, you're calling your shot here, right? As we enter a new realignment cycle, the 2026 through 2028 cycle, what do you feel you want to call your shot here? What do you think is going to be the biggest, most immediate difference in the season next year in this realignment cycle?
I could say this with 5A Region 4. There's no more Grupo de la Muerte or Group of Death there. you know, and then two groups of deaths, and
There were
then they
two
end up
groups of death in
two
5A
groups of
before,
deaths,
yeah,
and then
in
and then,
Region
then
4, yeah.
and then facing each other in the first round, and
Right,
so
right.
we're not going to see that in Region 4, but in, in Region 1, with 6A, I think it's got a lot tougher now. Now you
Mhm.
have teams like Wakeland's moving up to 6A, and you look at that District 6 is, I mean, like I said, they're moving up to, like I said, the District 5. You have Marcus, a Hebron, Flower Mound, Geyer. That's just that made it even tougher. And then you look at 6, you have Allen, Dallas just with the McKinneys, and then you have all three Prosper schools there,
Yeah.
and then like I said, even District 7. So it's gone tougher. Even like some of the districts, here in our area too. Like if you look at now you have the Lake Travis and Westside's going up against the Round Rock schools. It's a lot of things, and then the 4As. We're still waiting. Like I said, a lot of those things haven't been finalized yet. Who else is going to make an appearance? As far as what new programs are we going to have, which is great. Like I said, they're just showing. Like I could mention, like, some of the new programs that we saw on that roster, like Fort Stockton, Texas. They have a new program.
Yeah.
Navarro, Texas, Geronimo Navarro High School. They got a new program. We have a new high school coming up here in our backyard, Creekview from the Medina Valley ISD. Um, District 25 Ford just got tougher with the addition with Lago Vista and Kerrville Tivy. So, and like I said, you have teams moving up, some moving down. They're gonna make a big impact, and some also they're moving up. They'll have their impact too. So, and like I said, you have a 5-time defending state champion that's gonna move up to 5A. What chaos are they gonna are they gonna bring? And but like I said, that's a team that's been well prepared because they've never shied away playing against some 6As. So I think that's kind of what I look forward to coming in for the 2027 season.
Yeah, no doubt. Hold on here, my button's acting up. There we go. So yeah, I think it's a lot, man. It's a lot. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be interesting. How much of that is rightfully anticipated, right, and how much of it turns out to be not necessarily a big deal, right? And but there's always a surprise in there somewhere. Sometimes it emerges immediately. Sometimes it doesn't emerge until maybe the tail end of the first year, and sometimes it doesn't really show until the second year, right? So definitely will be interesting with a lot of shifts within regions, same classifications, but moving to different regions, and then of course shifting of districts as well. So, certain teams shifting around a little bit. So will be interesting for sure. So, Coach, that is going to do it as we start to wrap up here now. Final thoughts. We've shared a lot today. I kind of peppered you with some questions here at the end as we looked back on the 2025-2026 season. But as we start to wrap up here again, so go on there, like, rate, subscribe. You can find us on Twix, on Twitter X, as we call it, at 50 underscore 50 pod, on Instagram at 50 underscore 50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50 underscore 50, the 50 underscore 50 podcast. Go on there, go on YouTube. That is our channel that we're trying to grow the most right now. That's the one we've been focused on for probably the better half of 6 months. But go on there, hit the subscribe button. Doesn't cost you anything. You're already looking at YouTube. You're already on our video. Just bam, hit a button on your phone or on your desktop, on your laptop. Subscribe. All right. And then if you hit that live bell notification that's right next to it or right in that area, then you'll get notifications either on your phone, usually on your phone is where it's preferred, but on your phone or on your device of choice. You'll get live notifications every time we go live, which, as we always say, is 99.9% of the time, because everything we do, just about everything we do, is live. So want to make sure you don't miss an episode. But as we wrap up here, we start looking tail end of the 2025-2026 season. We will be in the works as far as trying to see if we can get some champions shows. No guarantees on that one. Just the new format just makes it a lot tougher in terms of coordinating schedules. But just is what it is. But it doesn't mean that no guarantees. But we'll try. We'll try see what we can bring back. And also, we got to get another episode so we can get Rafa unveil his final RPI, right? So he can piss a lot of people off. You guys can send him the hate mail, and we'll share his email address. What's that? Go ahead.
I was gonna say that's why I stay in the backgrounds on the games. I don't get on the field and all that. I don't want to get noticed, so I stay back down. So I don't want them. Hey, why do you have this rank there? So
right. But yeah. So final thoughts, Coach, as we put a bow on the 2025-2026 season, as the games are officially in the books as of Saturday's final match between College Park and Summer Creek. Final thoughts, shout outs, thank yous, whatever. The floor is yours, Coach.
yeah, just shout out to all the teams for this season. Great successful season. I know there were some some tragedies along the way and so forth, to bring us prayers out to to those teams and so forth, and I know weather had some factors in it a little bit in some games, but overall this was a fun season. Like I said, 8 new state champions, some teams really kind of cemented themselves, going deep and making deep runs, unexpected deep runs and so forth, but just something to look forward to for next season, especially for the underclassmen that are coming back. You have something to look forward to. If you made the playoffs, great, build upon that. If you didn't, your opportunity, to take for you to work hard over the off season, things that you can improve on. Even the coaches too, to work on different things and so forth. And I know I forgot to mention this, there might be, some coaching changes too. I think that can, factors in also a lot, going into the next season, who's going where, so forth, and how much of that can influence a program, taken to the next step and so forth. So, just like I said, just shout out to everybody out there for supporting us, and just like I said, this is a just coverage for the for the sport. Like I said, we're not in it for the money or the glory and this and that. It's just for the love, for the fun and love of the sport, and look forward to it back at it again right after Thanksgiving, and a few months from now, and be ready to go for 2027. Which now, like I said, with realignment, some new storylines going in, so it should be a fun one.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I'm in it, man. I'm in it for the money, in case you hadn't noticed, right? Because I'm cashing in, right? Yeah, yeah. Just so many great points, man. I don't want us. I can go on a tangent in terms of just so many. There's so many different things, so many people to just thank. We've made it. Big thing is this. I think. Just thank you. Um, Thank you to our supporters. Thank you to our fans, our coaches, our players, our parents, administrators, everyone who's had a say at some point. I mean, it's been pretty cool in the last I'd say in the last 3 weeks. Yeah, I'd say about the last 3 weeks, I've received I've received 4 different emails from either ads or principals, right? On in terms of just giving us a shout out or giving us a thanks for our coverage of Texas high school soccer, and that's just been it's humbling, it's heartwarming. We appreciate it. We're grateful for that. We never take it for granted, but it's the kind of stuff that keeps us motivated to keep doing this. That hey, it's making some sort of impact. Some people, someone's listening, right? I mean, if we have at 1 a.m. we got people, we got like 500-600 people listening to us, right? That's saying something, right? That's
Mhm.
saying something. So, here we are at what it's about a quarter to 11, and we got across all our platforms right now, probably about 200 people listening to us. So, that doesn't get lost on us. So, thank you more than anything. And I say particularly thank you just because this was a show, right? Is Inside Texas High School Soccer, a spin off series of the 50/50 Podcast Network as we continue to grow this thing we call a network now. This is a show, Rafa, as you can attest, started by accident. It started by it was we put like one or two of these together. What was it back in 2021,
Mhm.
right? 2021, and that season coming out of the COVID season, the year that was lost to COVID, the playoff season that was lost to COVID. So the following playoff season after that, we just kind of put a couple of these episodes together and just following the playoff coverage, and it stuck, right? We got a lot of demand for it, got a lot of input saying it's like got a lot of great feedback, and it transitioned into a whole series, and here we are, 6 seasons later, right? 6 seasons later, and I think if my math is right, it's like 78 or 79 episodes later, right? Something like that. Um, it's here we are, wrapping up tail end of season six, another the 2025-2026 Texas high school soccer season. And it's been, I often say it, it's the line I always give, but I've had the best seat in the house. And to be able to see its growth, to be able to see the relationships, building that rapport with coaches, being able to cheer on so many of our coaches, get to know so many players, cheer on our players. I can tell you guys this: probably no one's your bigger cheerleader than I am. Maybe Rafa. Uh, as well. And so it's fun. It's great. Thank you for allowing us to cover you all, to our administrators, to our ADs, right, to parents that we interact with. Thank you for allowing us to cover your programs. Thank you for when you see us out there, talking to us, recognizing us, and just giving us input, giving us feedback. We're just saying hi. Thank you for all of it. It never gets lost on us. We always are appreciative of it. Never take it for granted, and it continues to be why we say, it's about the people and for the people, and you all are the reason why we do it, and that we will always share because that's our kind of our true north. That's why we're doing this because it for damn sure ain't the money. I'll tell you that. It's not that, but it's a labor of love, and we love it and passionate about it. And here we are. We made it through 6 seasons of this show, and Rafa hoping that we can make it through six more. Right, so that's if you can put up with me because I know I'm not a walk in the park. But but yeah, thank you to everybody, and of course, thank you. A big part of that has to be thankful to part of our behind the scenes. A big member of our team is my wife who does a lot of groundwork support. Support behind the scenes and just allowing me to, on top of teaching, on top of coaching, being able to do this, and grateful for her, grateful for my family, my daughters who also sacrifice a lot, but also see their dad kind of being able to carry out, some of his passions, which is one of the things that we try to always display to our kids, right, to our daughters about to, chase your dreams, chase your passions, and live them, right? And so yeah, so grateful to all of you for allowing me to live out part of my passion and my dream and doing this and covering Texas high school soccer, covering you all, the 50/50 podcast as it continues to grow, as well as inside Texas high school soccer. Rafa, anything else to add to that? Final thoughts? Final thoughts?
Just like I said, just to thank everyone. Like I said, what people I get to see at the games. Like I said, I'm kind of the one that I like to stay in the background. Like I just watch. I'm not trying to be noticed or this and that or whatever. I just want to sit back, watch, and report what I have to give. And you know, just like let the players have their thing and the coaches their thing. And afterwards, yeah, like I said, after the games, once the games are over, I'll have a little chat with them outside the stadiums and stuff like that. Like I said, I don't impose my presence on there. Like I said, I'm just more of the background type, but because I like watching, like I said, I still learn from watching these games. Hopefully, maybe like I said, hopefully I get back into coaching. That's what I'm working. I'm going to hopefully be working on that pretty soon. So getting out of the the funk of things. But like I said, it helps me learn a lot. And um, to all the people, like I said, out there, like I said, like I said, thank you, and like I said, thanks Steve and also Harry too. Like I said, when we do our bracketology, it's a lot of work, and a lot of research and stuff, and a lot of man hours. I think it goes to 8 hours again. We're almost breaking the record, but that thing's been growing.
8 hours, 11 minutes, I think is what it
I
was
think
this year?
yeah, yeah.
Combined, yeah, so it's a little different. It's still not 6.5
Mhm.
hours straight, but yeah, it's pretty awesome.
But we get a lot of positive feedback from a lot of the people there that watch. It's great to know when we do, especially when we do like late night ones, and that one time we did the midnight ones, we had a big crowd for a lot of people viewing that and so forth. So it's evolved. Like I said, it's just getting the, getting the sport this proper coverage, and for the right reasons, and also for just putting it out there, showcasing these programs and so forth. That's the fun part, like I said, because like I said, we're all coaches and stuff, and it's just time that this sport is actually growing and growing here in the state of Texas, and you're starting to see. I mean, like I said, more high schools are adding this sport, regardless of classifications. You got some 2As and 3As, and then it's great to see that. And hopefully we end up adding a fourth division in the near future.
Yeah, it's coming. I think it's coming. I think just keep your eye on that 2028 to 2030 window somewhere. I'm thinking target year somewhere, give or take one direction or the other. I think it's 2030. So that's what I think. But of course, what do I know? Um, but yeah, I think yeah, you're right. I just think so much. You talked about the team. Speaking of growth, right? We cannot do so much of this. Harry, Harry behind the scenes. We forgive him for all the god awful teams that he cheers for. So because he does so much great work on behind the scenes on bracketology. I mean, that's just that in itself is like a month long project,
Mhm.
right? Three, whether it's one show or three shows, that's like a month to 2 month long project, 6 week project, and it's hard to do because it's a time crunch, and you never have all the data, you never have all the details because of how close that turnaround is between district certification and the start of the playoffs. And of course, we always have teams that are, for whatever reason, they got to play. It's a playoff game, play-in game, something, or or you can't track down all the data. Right? It is what it is. So big shout out to Harry and Steve. Right, Steve, who's coupled him and you. Making god awful picks in bracketology. Mine were great. Okay, mine were great. But no, I think that just it's just such a fun episode, man. The bracketology and what that's become. We're grateful to all of you for that as well. So thank you for your support on that. Steve's work behind the scenes on a lot of stuff. Him and his spreadsheets, right? So grateful for him. And then speaking of growth, one of the things, be on the lookout. We talked about it before. It is in the works. Our upcoming summer series show that still trying to find a name. We're still trying to finalize a name, but it will be our Summer World Cup series where we're going to cover the chronicling the obviously the United States men's national team, Rafa's favorite team, as well as just the World Cup in general. Right, we're going to have some live spots, some live shows, some impromptu shows, maybe some watch along, some watch. They call them watch parties, but I don't know if it's a watch party per se, but more of a live watch along. Uh, so looking forward to some of that, and then that. So be on the lookout for that because that's going to be coming soon. And then we're looking at the potential of our podcast team growing with some new members, right? So be on the lookout for that. Excited about that, and then potentially even a new. So we talked about a new show, a summer series show chronicling the U.S. men's national team in the World Cup, but could be in the works, could be potentially adding a new podcast show to our network in the coming months. So more to come on that. Very excited, and yeah, so much great stuff. Congrats on the season, boys. You are both a blessing to the sport. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you, buddy. Thank you so much. Great words, kind words. Thank you. Rafa, that is it, my man. I know I would ask you final thoughts, but that would be like the fifth time I ask you final thoughts. So this does not mean this is not the last of season 6. At least we don't think of Inside Texas High School Soccer. We are gonna either shoot for a final episode, or if not, a champions episode, hopefully,
Mm.
depending upon what we can get off the ground, or if not, a final episode for the year, see what we can bring to that. And then, of course, Rafa's our PI, so you guys can harass him. You guys will have all summer and all fall to harass him next year. But hey, Rafa, you did get some kudos at state by some people saying about just developing the state rankings. If Rafa could just do it all by himself, I was like, man, I don't know. He's already got enough spreadsheets. I don't know. He'll be pulling his hair out. So,
If they send me some checks for especially for Sunday for the birthday checks, like I said, they can do that. So
yeah, yeah, good deal, good deal, good deal. So that is going to do it. So that at least this is our last show covering the season itself. So thank you to all our fans, all our supporters, administrators, parents, everybody, players. You all continue to be the reason why we do it. Thank you so much. Again, like, rate, subscribe at 50_50 pod on Instagram, on Twitter X, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. One last thank you I got to give. Big thank you to our title sponsor in Jeanette Spain at Texas Veteran Realtor, who's been a huge supporter of not just the podcast and not just me personally, but even going back to the days as we were just getting this off the ground. Rafa even remembers, right, from her days when she was as a soccer parent herself, from running the Dripping Springs Soccer Booster Club. So really appreciate her family. Great family, great family. And then, of course, also our other great sponsor in Gipper. So we are looking for new sponsors. So if you are interested and want to be in the mix, we're very, very, very inexpensive. But if you'd like to be part of this community, be part of this project that we're trying to grow, and you feel like we can help you as well, please give us a buzz. We'd love to be able to work with you, as we are looking for some more sponsors, like I said, to continue to grow this network. So for my man, Rafa Casorena, I am your host, Coach Hector Cano. Thank you for being with us. Another season in the books, the 2025-2026 season. Congrats to all our champions, all our runner-ups. I can never say that right. Runner-ups. All who qualified for the state playoffs, no matter where your journey ended. All who didn't qualify for the state playoffs, know that you'll get another opportunity, unless you're a senior, of course. Know that you'll get another opportunity to write the next chapter next season. So continue to put in the work. So for Rafa Casorena, I am your host, Coach Hector Cano, and you know what to do. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening. You've been listening to the 50/50 Podcast, powered by the 50/50 Podcast Network. Help us continue to grow by liking, rating, and subscribing on all major podcast platforms. And don't forget to follow us on X at 50_50 pod, on Instagram at 50_50 podcast, as well as on YouTube at the 50_50 podcast. Until the next time, keep downloading and keep listening.